welcome future Dolphins. Congratulations on your recent admission to our school. My name is Lindsay, and I'm a fourth year student here at CSU Channel Islands. Today, we will be highlighting the mathematics department. And here with us today, we have Dr. Jeffrey Bull, an assistant professor in the math department. Hello, Dr. Bull. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, could you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then about the math department?
So my name is Jeffrey Buell, as you mentioned, and I'm the chair of the math program, which is probably why I've been invited to be here. I do research in what are called Lie algebras. So that's what I do my research in. And I most frequently teach a discrete mathematics class, which is an upper division math class that math students and computer science students take.
So, what are the most popular courses in the major, and then are there minor options available for the math major?
So, just by number of sections offered, I would say the most popular courses are the statistics classes. That's Math 201, which is elementary statistics, and Math 202, which is biostatistics. And those are often taken by students who are political science students, psychology students, sociologists. And and so there are a lot of students that take those majors, and so there's a lot of those classes. We certainly run a number of sections of calculus to serve many of the STEM majors, so chemistry, biology, physics, and of course, mathematics. So, it's always, when you say a popular math class, it's maybe not, I don't know, but there's a lot of those classes. Once we get into sort of the upper division classes, computer science and math majors both take discrete math. I've been told by students, maybe just self-serving students, that they think it's a great class, but what do I know? And then differential equations is a fun class. We also have research classes. So those are a number of classes that we offer a number of, and people, I believe, enjoy taking.
Awesome.
Oh, and you asked about minors as well,
Minors,
right?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Is there any like minors and options and stuff that
absolutely.
people can
So
choose?
let me talk about two minors. One is just a regular mathematics minor, and oftentimes students who are STEM students who have to take a calculus sequence are able to just take a few more math classes and get a minor in mathematics. We also have a foundational math minor, which is geared for people who want to teach in middle school, teach mathematics in middle school. And a third one is a data science and statistics minor, which is geared for people who want to use statistics as a tool to manage data. So we have those minors, and then within the major itself, we have 4 different concentrations based on sort of where students might want to go with their career. We have a math education concentration, and that is for students who are planning on going to get their high school teaching credential and teach mathematics. We have a pure mathematics concentration, and that's geared for students who might be wanting to go on to a PhD program in mathematics or statistics. We also have a statistics concentration, and this is more geared for students who, after they get their bachelor's degree, want to go and get a job in industry, often as a data scientist or someone working with data. And then our 4th concentration is the applied mathematics concentration. And that also prepares students to, out of the door after graduation, get jobs in industry. And we've had luck with students getting jobs at Naval Base Ventura County, other defense contractors, insurance companies, finance companies, things like that. So 2 of them are for people who want to get their degree and get a job. That's the statistics concentration and the applied math concentration. And those people who want to go on for further certification would either be taking the math education concentration or the pure math concentration.
Okay, awesome. And then is there any type of academic background that a student should have to enter the program?
I would say no, not really. And I think that we try to make sure that students who might not be as confident in their mathematical ability as they could be or should be feel welcome in the department. So if you are interested in learning about mathematics, wanting to use mathematics as a tool to solve problems, if you're generally interested in solving problems, um, that's what we want. We want curious people who are willing to spend time to learn. And if you meet that bar, that's what you need to be successful in the math program.
Awesome. What are the opportunities to participate in hands-on learning in the major? So do you guys have like internships that you work with, or you said there's research programs, if you want to talk about that too?
Yeah, there's a number of faculty that run undergraduate research groups, and they usually take two different forms. There are some research groups that do sort of semester-long projects, and those are associated with an independent study course. And a number of faculty members run those from time to time. And then also there are summer opportunities to do research. We have some grants on campus that fund summer student research, and we have faculty members involved in those. Including one faculty member who has taken students out to Santa Rosa Island, where we have the research station, to participate in research out over there.
Mhm. Awesome. That's really, really cool. And then what type of jobs do graduates seek upon graduation typically?
Yeah, I've lumped it up into about four sort of broad categories of places people get jobs. One is education. So teaching high school. We have people who are teaching at Cal Lu. Some people who are teaching now at CSU Monterey Bay. People who are teaching at Oxnard College. So education, teaching math is in high demand, and that's one pathway that people get careers after getting their math major. A second sort of broad group is jobs in finance. So places like PNC Bank, Capital One, Intuit, Farmers Insurance. So banks, finance companies, insurance companies, they deal with a lot of data and they have to do modeling, and the tools that do that are mathematics. And so a number of our students do find themselves working either locally or across the country in finance companies. Another big one is the tech industry. So for this one, you would need to augment your math skills with some programming skills, but some of that is built into the math major. But we have students who are now working at Amazon, Google, Qualcomm, Honeywell, tech industries like that. So that's a third broad category where students get jobs. And then the fourth one is the defense industry. So I mentioned Naval Base Ventura County, and the defense contractors in and around Naval Base Ventura County. We have a number of graduates that do that. Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Boeing, all have big defense industry footprints, and we have students working at those corporations. So those are the four big ones, but also we've had a lot of success for people staying locally and getting good jobs. So we have students who are working at Calavo Growers, Patagonia, Haas Automation. And so if the thing I would like to convey is that mathematics is a tool that the reason it exists is to solve problems. Many people in industry have problems, quantitative problems they need solved. And if you're good at math, good at using equations, modeling things, you can find jobs in a wide variety of industries.
Awesome. That's so cool. So it's not, it's not limited. The options are really endless there. So that's so great.
Yeah, these days, if you have good quantitative skills and good computer skills,
Mhm.
every place that collects information and data needs people with those skills.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter if you're a fashion house or a online retailer. If there's data and computers involved, you need math skills, you need computer skills, and you can get a job for any of those large corporations.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then how does your program prepare students for grad school if that's something that they're considering?
So as I mentioned before, we sort of have these two tracks built into the major. One is the pure math concentration, the other is the math education concentration. And so, certainly if you want to teach in high school, you have to get your single subject credentialing, and that is through a graduate program. And we have a number of graduates that do that. They either do their credential program here at Channel Islands or other local universities. And so the math education concentration prepares students for that graduate program. And the other big one is students who are interested in getting a master's or PhD in either statistics or mathematics. And the pure math concentration gives you sort of the background needed to be successful in those programs. And we've been really successful in having our graduates go on to some PhD programs. And we have students who have gotten degrees from Oregon State, Cornell, Washington State, University of Minnesota, Arizona, and locally as well, UC Santa Barbara and Claremont Graduate University.
Awesome. That's really cool. And then is there any general advice that you can offer for a student who's just beginning their studies at Channel Islands?
I do. I have sort of two and two. So I have four, I guess. But one is to be curious and be interested in learning and developing your skills. I think that the big thing that goes on in the university is you learn how to be an independent learner. For the rest of your life after the university, you're going to have to pick up new things. And at the university, one of the real skills that you learn is how to teach yourself stuff. And certainly at the university, you have help. The courses are there. You're getting instruction, but really what you're doing is over the course of your career, you're learning how to be a learner and how to learn new material. So be curious and be engaged in that learning process. Another big thing is the making the time to do your schoolwork. Classes are only going to be meeting twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. On the days that you don't have classes, you're expected to be doing work for those courses. And I think that transition bit of sort of making the time and being accountable on your own for your work is sometimes a new thing that people are asked to do. So definitely come in knowing that to learn stuff, to improve yourself through education, it's going to take some time, and make the time to do that. And then the two other things, those are sort of academic things, but the two other things I think are important are a social aspect. Find people to do your schoolwork with. It's much easier and much more efficient to work in groups to figure stuff out. Humans are social animals, and learning is a social activity. And so work in groups, find people with similar schedules, similar study styles, and work in groups and put yourself out there. So, talk to your classmates and say, I'm interested in working with people, but I can only do it on Thursdays. What about you? And then the other thing is engage in the extracurricular stuff. Again, part of the university is learning how to learn, but the other part is developing yourself as a young adult, making friends, making connections. And to do that and to do that well, it's not just classroom stuff, it's the stuff outside of the classroom. And at the university, there's a ton of different affinity groups. There's a ton of activity-based student organizations. And I would say, part of establishing your place in the university as a young adult is, finding these things that you like to do and finding other people to do it with. And I think that's as critical as spending time on classes and getting the most out of your college experience.
Yeah, that was awesome. I agree. You hit everything on the dot there. I also wanted to ask like a little bit of background. So what first made you interested in math? Have you always liked math or?
So I have always liked math. So I think that my story is maybe a little abnormal because I knew very early on that what I wanted to do with my life is get a PhD in mathematics and probably be a math professor. But I do remember watching when I was very young the PBS show Nova, and there was a Nova episode about mathematics. And I don't remember exactly what they were talking about, but I really remember my experience watching that and the feeling I had that this was very interesting. And so I think I probably was interested in good in math before that, but I do remember that as a young kid as sort of a moment where I really definitely felt the affinity for this subject.
That's awesome. And then what you kind of mentioned this already, but what is your favorite class to teach?
So my favorite class is discrete mathematics. I do it pretty frequently, pretty much every semester. I've been doing it for a long time. Um, I have all the funny jokes worked out, or at least the ones I think are funny. But yeah, I enjoy teaching a lot of math classes, but discrete math is my the one I enjoy the most.
Cool. And then are there any clubs for students to join that are specific to math? Because that's, such a big part of being in college is becoming part of clubs and organizations. So,
Yeah, there is a math major club. And so yeah, I would encourage anyone who wants to be a math major to join that as well. And this maybe gives you an opportunity to talk about sort of groups again, because I think most majors, just like the math major has a math major student group, most majors do. So there are student groups that are sort of oriented toward your academic major. There are other student groups that might be oriented more towards identity. Um, and then there's also, student groups that are more based on activity. Um, and so I lump student groups into sort of those three piles, and it's probably not perfect, but there's academic, sort of identity, and activity. And so I would certainly say math majors, join the academic one, but also, think about choosing a group from one of the other two piles as well. Um, so I really do think the social aspect is a big thing, and that's the reason I'm mentioning it again.
mhm. Awesome. I think that's all I have for right now. Was there anything else that you wanted, to talk about?
I think that the the thing that I hear the most from students when they're considering being a math major, or you know they've had a good experience in their math class, they feel like they're successful, they feel like this is something they could do. It's it's not knowing what their career might look like. And I think that oftentimes people sort of think about the people that they know that do math, and those are the teachers that have taught them math. And so I think sometimes students think that career options are limited when you choose a math major to that teaching. And that's really not the case. Part of the reason it's maybe a little difficult to me to talk about all the career possibilities there are with a mathematics degree is because if you have quantitative skills and if you have a little bit of computer skills, there are jobs for you anywhere.
Mhm.
So, that could be in computer gaming, it could be in the finance industry, it could be in agriculture. As long as as long as there's data and people that need to turn that data into information, people with math skills are going to be needed. And so the challenge really when you have a math degree is sort of figuring out what do I really enjoy applying these tools to? And that gives you an indication of maybe the areas you could start applying. But really there are a lot of jobs open to math majors. Another thing is that, you know, there is this idea in American society that math is hard and that the people who do it must be smart. I I mean that there's some advantage to me when people believe that, but really I think that math is a skill like any other skill. You have to practice it to learn it. But because there's this belief that if you're good at math, you must be smart, then when you have a resume that has someone with a math degree, you sort of rise to the top of the pile because they're like, wow, that's
Mhm.
impressive. And so I, this idea that only teaching is uh, like the career pathway is something that I hear the most from students, and I wanted to say that specifically because there really are a lot of possibilities.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's super, super cool. And I know people are like, oh, math, like that's, so hard. But it is so cool, and it's just a diverse topic that, the opportunities are endless. And so I think it's really, really awesome. And thank you so much for joining me today. And if any of the students watching this have any other questions about the math department, we do have the academics page on our website. So if you visit go.csuci.edu/academics, you can find more information about this program. And we hope to see you in the fall. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. And come to Channel Islands.